So you love pulled pork, but you don't have a smoker. Well, this is the video for you, because today I'm making pulled pork in the oven, and while it does take a little while to cook, the preparation is painless and doesn't take long at all. But rather than attempting to copy the flavors of the smoker, I decided to change it up a little bit, and it's going on a sandwich. So I have a coffee rubbed pulled pork with a mango Brussels sprout coleslaw, pickled red onions, a raspberry thyme sauce to kind of add some sweetness, and it's finished off with a creamy Gouda cheese. So let's get down to business, starting with your meat. Pork butt, which despite its name actually comes from the shoulder of the pig. As with all heavily worked muscles, the meat is very tough, but extremely flavorful. Perfect for slow cooking. First thing you want to do is inspect your meat. If it has already been deboned, as mine has, just check for any bone fragments that may have been missed, because you don't want to bite into that later. And if it's bone in, that's cool. The bones will release gelatin and flavor into the meat and slide out easily when cooked. But either way works fine. If there's a huge chunk of fat on the top, you can trim it up a little, but don't remove all of it. I'm happy with the way mine looks, so I'm going to leave it alone. The coffee rub will consist of a 1/4 cup of your favorite coffee grounds, darker the better, 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, preferably dark brown if you have it, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Now mix that up real good. You don't want any large bits of anything, so use whatever method necessary. Then rub it all over your meat, being sure to hit all the nooks and crannies. This piece is about 7 pounds, so if yours is significantly larger or smaller than that, you may need more or less rub, respectively. Next, take a large sheet of heavy-duty tinfoil. Not that thin stuff. You'll need it to be thick enough that it won't rip. Place your meat in the middle and bring the sides of the tinfoil up and crimp them together. Now crimp the ends together real tight to prevent any moisture from escaping. Now this is just one in like a billion different ways you can cook pulled pork in the oven. I prefer this method because all the juices stay contained in this little package, keeping the meat moist throughout the entire cooking process. But you have to have heavy duty tinfoil. If you don't, it's just going to leak out. It's going to make a big mess. So if you don't have heavy duty tinfoil and you don't want to go out and buy it, you can do it a different way. Take the meat and put it into a baking dish and wrap it in whatever tinfoil you have. But you need to make sure that you use some kind of chicken stock or other flavorful liquid in the bottom so that it doesn't dry out. And it could be anything. It could be cherry juice, apple juice, vegetable stock, whatever floats your boat. Place your package on a wire rack over a sheet pan and pop it into a 250-degree oven for 10 hours. So you can reduce the necessary cooking time by either using smaller pieces or raising the temperature of the oven. But I wouldn't go too high on that, maybe 325 tops, and you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on it to make sure that the bottom doesn't burn. For the coleslaw, start with a 1/2 cup of small diced onion, and this is approximately 1/4 of an onion. Set that aside and slice your Brussels sprouts. You want them to be about 1/8 of an inch thick, and slice them however you feel comfortable. I slice them whole by planting my wrist on the board for better stability, so that it doesn't roll or put my fingers in harm's way of the knife. But you may find comfort in slicing them in half lengthwise first. I also prefer to pick through and remove any pieces of the core that I find, but you don't have to. Some may actually prefer the extra texture as it will be crunchier than the rest, so use your own judgment. And it may be easier for you to use a mandolin for this if you have one. Now you need 1 pound of these total for this recipe, but that's after cleaning, so more like 1.5 pounds initially. Once they're all sliced up, transfer them into a bowl along with the onions and add a teaspoon of kosher salt and 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Mix this up and let sit for at least 30 minutes. This will cause the moisture to leach out, softening your mix so that it's more like coleslaw. Then transfer it to a strainer and squeeze out as much liquid as you can. Discard the liquid and place your mix into a dry bowl. Next, you need sliced mango. If you're not familiar with mango, it has a long flat pit that runs through the middle of the fruit. Stand it up with stem on top and slice to one side of it all the way down. Do the same on the other side. If it's really ripe, you can scoop it out of the skin with a large spoon like you would an avocado. Mine is a little underripe, so it wasn't the easiest, but it still worked. Then slice the fruit into a matchstick size. And you can get a little bit of meat from the remaining sides of the mango, but not nearly as much. Then chop 2 tablespoons of fresh cilantro into the bowl of Brussels and onions. Go 1 cup of mayo, a tablespoon of Dijon, the mango, the cilantro, 3 tablespoons of honey, and zest and juice of 1 lime. Stir it all up, and you've got a coleslaw that beats everything that has ever come before it. For the raspberry sauce, you'll need 1 pint of fresh raspberries, a half cup of granulated sugar, some fresh thyme, a half cup of red wine, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Bring it to a simmer and let cook for about 30 minutes or so until it is reduced to the point that the bubbles begin to stack up on top of each other. It may seem a little thin at first, but it will thicken significantly as it cools. Place it in a bowl, remove the thyme, and chill. Now, pickled onion is not a stranger to my channel, but if this is your first time seeing it, you'll need 1 onion sliced. And take 1 cup of red wine vinegar and 1 cup of granulated sugar, bring it to a boil, and pour over the onions. After they've cooled, they'll be a nice pink color. That's it. Easy. Now back to the pork. After an insanely long time in the oven, your pork should be around 200 degrees. Pull it out and let it rest for about 30 minutes or so, and then remove its wrapping, being sure to save any juice that comes out. It should be very tender and pull easily. And if you're looking for a crust similar to what you would find in smoked pork, you could start your meat off uncovered in the oven for the first few hours. And to shred, you can use 2 forks, or 2 pairs of tongs work great if you have them. Now, you may choose to dig in and eat it right away, and that's fine. But I find that if you let it rest in its own juices overnight, it'll be even better. And how small you shred the meat up is entirely up to you. And I enjoy it most when there's nice sized pieces to bite into versus being completely shredded into oblivion. For the sandwich, you'll want a nice soft bun like this brioche here, but make sure it's toasted. Melt some Gouda over your pork in the oven and put that on there. And then hit it with a healthy serving of the coleslaw. Don't hold back here. This makes a nice drippy sandwich as if there wasn't enough moisture in the pork already. Hit it with some onions on top and close that bad boy up. Now this is one sloppy sandwich, but that's just the way I like it. And this hits home on multiple levels. They're sweet, sour, creamy, earthy, bitter. There's a variety of different textures. You'll love this one. Well, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments what your favorite thing to put on pulled pork is. But for now, I've got a sandwich to eat. Till next week, bye.